Hello everyone and welcome. I'm Iris Whitelock and I'm the Speaker Coordinator at WAFTA, and I'm delighted to welcome you to a series of conversations with makers of work in the recent Hanging by a Thread exhibition that was held at the Holmes Court Gallery in West Perth. I managed to collar 6 women as they came up the ramp one day into the gallery to ask them if they'd be willing to be interviewed about their work, and they very graciously agreed. So what follows are short interviews with them about what is meaningful to them, but what's the meaning behind the work that they've done, what was the message they were trying to express, possible challenges that they had in the making of the work. I'm sure you'll find it all very interesting. There was a lot of background noise. It was a very busy day in the gallery that day, so please adjust the volume on your listening device or computer, whichever you're watching the video on. And I'm sure you'll find it absolutely fascinating, very interesting, and enjoy. Thank you. Bye-bye. Hello, Mel. Mel Mcclure, welcome, and really looking forward to finding out about the piece of work that you've got. If you'd like to talk to me about any challenges or interesting things that happened in the making of this piece.
It's a very challenging material to work with. It comes on a 1.1 metre roll, which needs to be kind of pulled out, but it's very heavy and it's very dusty, so it's best to wear goggles and a mask for breathing, because you don't want that. It's called a concrete canvas, so it's a fibre matrix that's impregnated with concrete, so you don't want to be breathing in that dust.
No.
It can be quite a yucky thing to work with, and it's so heavy that I can't lift it by myself and pull it. So I either need heavy machinery to help me, or 2 or 3 other people's hands to help me lift and pull. So the challenge is in being able to lift it and move it to make these very organic, feminine curves that we see here. Of a material that's otherwise used to line ditches. So it's a very industrial kind of material, which I have given different meaning to, I guess.
Yes, yeah, beautiful. I'll just pan down so we can have a look. So here we go. So you told me there was a bit of a story about actually getting it here, that was quite a challenge as well.
Well, yeah, the actual size, I had a very big trailer that I was planning on bringing this work on, and when I arrived at the workshop to pick the trailer up, it was full of rubbish, and it would have taken a full day to get rid of that rubbish. So I was offered a smaller trailer in exchange for the bigger one, and I just looked at it and I panicked, thinking it's not going to fit, but my angels were with me, and I took this to my studio, and it just fit in the trailer by millimetres. It was uncanny.
Yes, so your angels really were with you, weren't they?
I am blessed. Okay, this piece has many layers to it. One of them is its materiality and the flexibleness of it. So my mother and my grandmother were both dressmakers, so it lends itself to that whole flexible fibre. And my grandmother's maiden name was Rose, so you'll see that I've tried to put a few roses in the work. So I'm remembering her in this work. She's passed away a couple of years back now. And it's also a very visceral piece for me to have made, because it's been a journey of self-acceptance and being enough and being more than enough, And having this work here as it is, there are dark spaces and there are light spaces, and I could have tidied it up and made it, you know, this shiny white piece, but I just wanted to leave it as it is because it's raw and it's representative of the journey that I've undertaken these last few months.
Beautiful. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Jan Holland. Thank you for joining me and giving us a little chat about the work that you've had in the Hanging by a Thread exhibition. So you had a couple of pieces. Would you like to tell me what the theme or themes were, and why those were important for you to express with this textile piece?
Mm-hmm. Yes, thanks, Iris, and thank you for inviting me here. It's lovely to talk about my works. Yes, I had two pieces in, as you said. One was Nowhere to Hide. That was my primary piece, and the other one was Nowhere to Play. They directly reference the same themes virtually, just a little different. They are connected. So they both reference the degradation of sea quality and our coastline and riverline. More the coastline than the riverline, but that's part of it. The ecosystems that are affected, you know, and the quantity of sea life and beach space that we now have. So my work, I try to keep my work soft, and use materials that sometimes are hard. So I've got contrast between the two. My work follows my female lineage from my grandmother to mother to daughters and granddaughters. That's the bigger picture. But because of my relationship with the ocean, it's quite an interesting journey. For which I chose a beautiful childhood icon of mine to base my art, the paper nautilus, the matriarch of the sea. So this has taken me into more of the sea studies.
So just tell me quickly what nautilus is, because when you first mentioned that to me, I wasn't sure what it was. So can you
okay.
Just describe it and how you've used it. Yeah.
It's paper nautilus is a basically a nautilus octopus, which creates the beautiful shell, and I think we might have an image somewhere, a beautiful shell which is paper thin in which to lay her eggs and hatch them and carry her brood around safely in the ocean. So it's paper thin. She has air chambers to float that shell around, keep her protected, and the eggs protected. She goes in and out, and that's my image of the female lineage in my family, and any female lineage really, that vulnerability and that resilience to be able to do that, and the strength, even though it's soft. Materials are soft. So I really do like that image to use, and I bring it in as often as I can.
Yeah, well, thank you. I had no idea that an octopus would create a shell. That's amazing.
Very clever. Very clever. Yeah. And then they leave it, so they're washed up on the shore, and they're highly prized now. They're beautiful, beautiful ornaments. So I have had a lifelong connection with the ocean, and my experience is direct. And more recently, but over the years I've noticed and been aware of the pollution and all of the damage that's happening in our ocean and on our shores. So I think I owe it to my lineage to encourage them to improve things, and I'm quite heartened by the research that I read. But my first piece, Nowhere to Hide, is prompted by my trips to Sydney, where we were warned constantly many years ago not to swim after rain, not to fish, not to eat seafood, and that was a long time ago. And now Sydney has a website where, excuse me, where they post every day a summary of the beaches and harbour sites where it is not safe to swim. So all the beaches are there. They just let you know if there's pollution and it's not wise to swim in certain parts. Not necessarily connected with rain. Moving back to Perth, my beach activity took me to collect beach litter. So I was in direct contact with finding these enormous ropes cluttered with seaweed, huge, on my local beach here. And when I read up about them, they are actually part of the ghost net clan, which is what Nowhere to Hide is about. It's a ghost net showing the beauty of them and the seductive beauty, because wildlife, the fish and sea life, gets caught in them and they are destroyed. And so that was where that first piece came from. The beach litter, also the plastic, those documentaries we see, the Stop the Plastic Tide and those docs, made me aware of the effect and the far-reaching effect of plastics. And I see it firsthand collecting these tiny bits of plastic that no longer have colour on them. They're clear and they look like little pieces of jellyfish and sea life floating around. So that was this will be a series of works, and the net is the first one, which is a broadly encompassing theme. But it saddened me also to know that 52% of the litter found last year or the year before in the Pacific Ocean was ghost nets, and that's frightening. They just don't destroy anymore. They're not made of natural products. Now, my second piece, Nowhere to Play, is also due to my direct encounter with the beach, and it references the coastline erosion that I encounter every day in the beach, and the river erosion that's occurring and the damage that's being occurred. So it was a little tongue-in-cheek, my Nowhere to Play, the shrinking ocean, the shrinking beach, and the shrinking beach towel. And I referenced the sea life in there, that my Nautilus is referenced in that piece, as well as my connection to the 60s, where I knew beautiful clear waters and expanses of sand and lots of fish and ethical fishing, to a point, I suppose, at that time. So that prompted me to look at, that's the beginning of another series of work as well, because I'm confronted with the sandbags they put out to stop the erosion, and the netting that they cover the cliffs with now, and it looks pretty futile, really, and it's just a statement that I need to make. Also, the buildings that are being lost in the ocean. So really, that's the part of my Nowhere to Hide. Nowhere to Play, I think, was it Lamentations? Yeah. That is my lament for times gone by. I don't know whether we'll be able to get it back again, but we're certainly trying, and it's encouraging to see that, and I do hold hope for the future. Okay. But there will be some more works going along in this line.
Sounds like you've got a very rich idea there to explore and extend. Okay.
I do.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much, Jan. Thank you for joining us, and I'll be putting, well, I will put those photos on the video so that people can look at them and
that's great.
Look at what you've been talking about. Okay.
Lovely.
Thank you. Welcome, Jane Donovan. It's lovely to have you here to talk to us about the piece of work that you've got. You've got 3 pieces in the exhibition, and they're all weaving. But this one is really very special. It's so precise and delicate, and I'd love you to talk to us about this. So, like, where did you get the idea from? What challenges did you have in making it? And anything else that you think would be interesting to hear about. So, yeah.
Thank you. Well, this is a double weave. It's called fin weave or double weave pickup. So we've actually got 2 layers.
Okay.
I weave simultaneously at the same time.
Wow.
A dark layer, which I have plant dyed myself, and a lighter layer. I've always been inspired by fossils. Actually, cave drawings were part of my inspiration, but particularly fossils. So I downloaded quite a few fossil images from the internet, and then I made drawings of these fossils, and then I transferred it onto graph paper. So using the graph paper and the threads, the counted threads, so 2 threads equals 1 square on the graph, I was able to weave the image into the cloth. So what you do, you have pick-up sticks, and you pick up the white threads that you want and you lower the dark threads, and that way you can manipulate the image in any way, which way you would like to.
Okay, it sounds like something that you get to after years and years of practice and in that art form. How long have you been weaving like this?
Well, I've been weaving for 30 years.
Okay.
It's all about understanding a technique and developing a skill. So I think that's very important for this kind of craft, an understanding of skill and technique.
Yes, well, it's beautiful and it's so precise. So I'll just move over here. Now, can you tell me what the different images are? What are they of?
This is a Peruvian or Mexican symbol, which you find a lot in their weavings. I kind of like that connection to tradition. Weaving has so much to do about tradition and culture. All these are animal images. That would be an animal. This is a lizard. This is an animal, a human, another lizard, and that is a bird.
Okay, yes. I think I've seen a picture of that bird before. Yeah. Wow. Okay. So, so did you have any challenges with when you first started thinking of doing the piece for Hanging by a Thread? Was there? I mean, you've done 3, and they're all different sizes. This is the smallest, isn't it?
Yes, but the most complex of all of them.
Yeah. Well, a beautiful piece of work.
Yeah, I decided to just do weaving pieces for this exhibition, because that is one of my strengths, but I am interested in all techniques and all forms of textile art.
Yes. Oh, well, fabulous. Thank you so much for talking to us. Thanks, Jane. Thank you. So welcome, Susie Vickery. Thank you for agreeing to have a chat to us about the piece of work that you've entered for the exhibition, Hanging by a Thread. So I'll just do a quick sort of pan over here to the work, and then I'll ask you to tell me something about it.
So I've done a lot of work over the years about sweatshops, so this was kind of an extension of all that work. So it's about a kind of timeline of workers' changing conditions, and I think it's quite pertinent for now because actually the workers' conditions are actually going backwards because of COVID. So I think it's really good to look back at how much things have got better and how much worse they're going to get.
Why are they getting worse because of COVID?
Because I think it's a chance. Everything's disrupted, and so everyone's saying, "Oh, we can't afford stuff." So we can't afford to have unions, and we can't afford to have sick leave. I mean, it could go the other way because we're starting to realise that COVID spreads because there isn't sick leave and because of the gig economy. So I'm hoping that it will get better.
Yes, okay. And I suppose, would there be more people doing piecework from home and that sort of thing during COVID? Do you think that's happening?
Yes, that could also be a way of... it being hidden,
Yes.
you know, the rights. So
Yes.
this is my kind of embroidery rant.
Okay. So, is there a particular part? Okay, so I'm just interested. The bones of the cotton weavers are bleaching the plains of India.
So that was when in the 1800s there was a big famine in India, and it was because of the Industrial Revolution in the UK. A lot of the cotton was now being woven in England rather than in India, so they'd stopped importing from India, and so people were out of work, and they were exporting all the rice from India to the UK, and the trains would go past the dying, starving people in India. Yeah, so it was a pretty bad time.
Yes.
Because as Amartya Sen, who's a Nobel Prize winning economist from Bangladesh, he said there's never been a famine in a democracy.
Okay.
They're always man-made.
Yes, interesting.
And so then I kind of, the most recent quote that I embroidered was from Martin Luther King. And I think that's
Is that
also,
down the bottom?
Yeah, and I think that's very pertinent given the election that's coming.
Yes.
Because he's talking about the need for labourers to organise themselves into unions rather than wait for charitable impulses to grow from their employers.
Yes, okay.
So, and I've tried to use, you know, the rulers, which are the, you know, like the dress rules, and, you know, hand-woven cloth.
Yes, you were talking to someone just now about that cloth. Can you tell us a bit about that garment?
Oh, this garment. This is an original Indian men's garment.
Okay.
And it's antique, and it's absolutely exquisite, fine, hand-woven muslin. And it's all hand-stitched as well.
Yes, let's see if we
Because there's
can...
this amazing thing, because India has the most extraordinary textile industry, but it has had a bit of a hammering since the, I've forgotten the name of the agreement, the textile import agreement, where they then couldn't stop textiles and garments being imported into India from other countries. You know, they had to take
some
the
sort of tariff thing.
Yeah, it was the tariff-free thing agreement, and so India now is flooded with garments and fabric from China.
Oh, okay.
So it's killing off the textile industry there.
Gosh, there's so much that goes on in the textile industry, isn't there? And you just think every time you buy something to wear, there's this huge history behind.
So we have to think about all of those things whenever we buy something.
Yeah.
And try and reuse as well. So I'm actually wearing a recycled outfit.
Okay, good.
It's wonderful.
Tell us.
I love it.
Shop jacket that I've
Yes.
and then this skirt that's made of an old blanket.
Yes.
It's splendid. Distance too.
I
love
didn't
it.
actually make the skirt. It's from
Oh,
a
didn't
girl
you?
made it in Melbourne.
I love it.
Yeah, but really warm.
Yeah, it would
Lovely.
be. I bought a sort of poncho in the Salamanca market in Tasmania, made out of an old blanket.
Ah, so it might be the same girl.
I wonder if it is, because it was very nice and very warm.
Thank you, Susie. So,
You're welcome. Sorry, it was my political rant.
no, that's fine. That's very good. Welcome, Liz. Really great to have you along to talk to us about your piece of work. So, tell me more. Tell me about this.
Okay, well,
What's the name of the work first? We better say that.
the title of the work is The Bad, the Ugly and the Good. And I was diagnosed in September 2019 with a rare cancer, and it had metastasised, so I was stage 4 and it's terminal. There is no cure. If I didn't have treatment, I only had a few weeks. So I was quick to choose treatment.
Yes.
To give me a bit more time. My prognosis is a 45% chance of surviving 5 years.
Right.
And I mainly made the work because when I was talking to friends or family, a lot of people had difficulty maintaining a conversation with me once they knew my diagnosis. So I pushed myself to make this work for this exhibition so that it could act as a conversation starter. And to show that, you know, I'm not, you can ask me anything about my illness or about, you know, possible end-of-life conversations, anything. And so this part of the work is basically indicates what the side effects and things are of the chemo and the surgery.
Gosh, there's a lot there, isn't there?
Yes, I'm pretty hollow. I have a stoma, and that's another thing that people have difficulty
don't know what it is.
About. They don't know what it is. So it's a poo bag.
Okay.
This goes here. These are part of the chemo. I go for chemo every 2 weeks. Spend 4.5 hours connected up to a drip on a Monday, and then I go home with a bottle around my neck in this little bag, and I have that on for 2 days.
What's in the bottle?
It's more of the treatment.
The chemo stuff. Okay.
Fluoro something is the name of the drug.
Yes.
But I have a port here. So the bottle is connected to the port, goes directly into my bloodstream. There's lots of side effects. Make it difficult to sew and things like that. I have good days and bad days.
What makes it difficult to sew, Liz? Just the physical, have to sit in one place?
It's difficult to sew because, like, silly things like your fingers crack and get sore. Silly little things.
Yeah.
But it's almost impossible to use a thimble or a needle when it's like that.
And you normally do so much hand stitching, don't you?
Yes.
Lots of detail. Yeah.
So, and then, you know, no sooner was I sort of recovering than COVID-19 came along,
and everybody went into lockdown.
Yeah. And you're in isolation.
Yeah.
And so this was made. The motifs on there were inspired by the coronavirus media pictures, and because of the stoma, my wardrobe needs to change. So I've been making lots of skirts, and this skirt is one of them.
Yeah.
I'm intending to make heirloom type skirts.
Yes. So,
and the blue in my mind represents hope.
It's beautiful. Good. Wow, so there's a big story in there, Liz.
Yeah,
for,
a big personal story.
Yes.
You know.
Yeah.
But and one of the other things is it doesn't mean I've stopped caring about other things. You know, I still care about the environment. I still care about climate change and all those things. I'd still like to perform actions or live my life in a way that helps prevent pollution and all those things. Just because I've got such a big personal drama happening doesn't mean I'm not concerned about other dramas going on in the world.
Yes, yeah. Okay. Is there anything more you'd like to say, Liz?
It's a conversation starter. So
yes.
Come talk to me.
Yes. Beautiful.
When you see me.
Yes. Thank you, Liz. That's great. Hello, Betsy Bush. Thank you for agreeing to have a quick conversation about the piece of work that you've got in Hanging by a Thread. So, would you like to tell us about it?
Okay, well, this is called Hand in Hand, and it's basically a piece about my connection to my mother, who wrote a story on a piece of wood.
Right.
Quite a long time ago, and Dad had always had this piece pinned up on his bathroom wall, and I used to sit there on the loo trying to decipher it, but other than a few words, have never worked out more than that. So she had Alzheimer's at the time, so I took her writing and blew it up and then transcribed it onto a linen sheet that I'd found at Fremantle Tip. And so what I've done is I've backed each letter with silk chiffon the other side,
Okay.
and then sewn around the edge, and then snipped out the linen, trying not to snip the silk at the same time.
Yes, I wondered how you'd done all
Didn't
that.
always succeed, but it's been quite a moving process for me because I'm so familiar with Mum's handwriting, and I've felt such a deep connection to Mum with every letter that I've sewn and snipped, and it's felt like a real connection with her throughout the making of it. I wasn't sure. I started in April and finished the night before I had to deliver it. Wasn't sure whether it was going to be complete in the end, but that didn't really matter, because the important thing for me was the making of it and the feelings I had while I was making it. And if it was half finished at the end, that didn't really matter, because it sort of reflected the Alzheimer's in a way. And
Yes, you don't get a proper chance to finish off with Alzheimer's, do you?
No. It's a very cruel disease. But Mum was very happy. She was a creative writer, so to not be able to actually understand something she's written is most unusual. And I've noticed that it just hasn't stopped moving.
Let's take a picture of this. Yes.
Pauline reckons.
There's somebody.
Pauline reckons, yeah, she's up there tugging the strings.
Yes.
Don't forget me. Yeah, so it's been quite a really moving experience making this. Frustrating too. I don't think I'll ever work with a recycled bed sheet ever again, because it's just too fragile.
Right.
So yeah,
That's a metaphor in itself, isn't it?
yeah. Well, the fragility, and I think what I was thinking of with hanging by a thread was clarity. It was the sort of lack of clarity, and what Mum was trying to say. Our understanding of that was just sort of threadbare, really.
Yes,
yeah.
yes.
So that was my connection to the hanging by a thread. Yeah.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much, Betsy.
Thank you,
That's
Iris.
beautiful. Thank you.